I, Chair Argue, call the first hybrid state plumbing board meeting on June 16, 2020 to order at 9:30. Would you please do the roll call, Debbie?
Yes, sir. Chair Travis Argue.
Here.
Vice Chair Matthew Roselle.
Here.
Craig Anderson. I'll come back to Craig. Roy Fraser.
Here.
Melissa Gett.
Here.
Molly Keller.
Here.
Joe Lebold.
Here.
Thank you. Craig Anderson.
Here.
Thank you, Craig. Mr. Chair, we have a full board.
All right, thank you. All right, is there any changes or anything additions to the amended changes to the agenda? All right, I, Chair Argue, rule the amended agenda and the order of business approved as published. All right. Is there any changes to the draft minutes need to be said or changed? All right. I, Chair Argue, rule the draft and meeting minutes of April 21st, 2022 final. Our next board meeting will be August 18th, 2022. Okay. I would like to ask Ian to address the public comment, if there's any.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ian Paik, analyst with the division. We did not get any requests for general public comment. I'm going to leave the line open for just a moment if there's anyone on the Zoom that would like to provide general public comment to the board. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is no general public comment.
Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Consent orders proposed for resolution with Kathy Rowell. Did I say that right?
Chairman Argue, it's actually Rowell, but that's close enough.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For the record, good morning, Chairman Argue and members of the board. My name is Kathy Rowell. I am a contested case representative for the division. We have provided, through the chair, if you will turn to agenda item 3A, we have provided a handout in your packet of a summary of the 3 consent orders on the agenda today for your consideration. These consent orders were negotiated on the board's behalf prior to hearing, and all settlements, including the amount of penalties owed and suspended civil penalties, fall within the guidelines of the penalty matrix, and they contain the standard conditions. Board action is required on these 3 cases. These orders are pretty standard, but I will briefly review them and be available to answer any questions any of you may have. And then if the board can approve or deny these consent orders, either in whole or in part, that is required. The first consent order for consideration today is Martin Randall Witcherly, DBA Randy Witcherly Construction, Inc., case number C-2021-204. The violations were no plumbing contractor license, no journeyman plumber's license, and no plumbing permit. Total penalties assessed of $6,000 and settled for $750 with a state amount of $5,250. He's a first-time violator. The next 2 cases, Rivercast and Jose Romero Rivera, may seem familiar to some of you if you were here at the board meeting in February. These 2 cases were also before the board at that time and were approved at that time. However, after we got back from the board meeting and did final preparation of those orders, clerical errors were found, which we then fixed, and we fixed the orders, the clerical errors, and we sent the orders back out to the respondents, and they re-signed the orders in May of 2022, and those 2 orders are back in front of you again today. Just as a reminder, these two cases are related cases. Mr. Rivera is a member of Rivercast, and they did some violations in electrical and plumbing. This was back in the days when we did those plumbing and electrical together. So they did both violations, and the total plumbing violations for Rivercast were $4,000, and the total plumbing violations for Mr. Rivera were $2,000. And we entered into negotiations and settled on $3,000 for Rivercast and $1,500 for Mr. Rivera. So those two orders are back in front of the board today for consideration. So those are the three cases that we have for your approval today, if y'all could take a vote on these three. Any questions that you have?
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions for her? All right, hearing none, there needs to be a motion. Since my go-to, Craig's going to be my go-to today. Craig, would you like to make a motion?
I'd love to. Through the chair, I'd like to provide a motion that we approve these consent orders as written.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, let's have a vote. Debbie, would you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Joe Lebold,
Aye.
Molly Keller,
Aye.
Melissa Gett,
Aye.
Corey Fraser. Corey, did you say yes or no?
I say aye.
Thank you. Craig Anderson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Matthew Roselle,
Aye.
and Chair Travis Argue.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. All right, now the summary of enforcement previously resolved. Is that going to be Kathy? Are you up next too?
Yes, Chairman Argue, thank you. And thank you
Okay.
very much, Board, for approving those orders. Through the chair, if you will turn to Agenda Item III.B. Before the board, we also provided a list of the 3 default orders that have been issued by the division. No board action is required on these, but we did want to inform you that these 3 orders have been issued. The 3 orders are 2 related cases, again, Tip Top Plumbing and Edwin Ost are related cases, and A&E Heating and Air. Again, these have all 3 been issued as default orders. No board action is required. Tip Top Plumbing was allowing an unlicensed individual to perform plumbing work, penalties assessed of $2,000. Edwin Ost was no journeyman plumbing license, $2,000 assessed. And finally, A&E Heating and Air was performing, allowing unlicensed individuals to perform plumbing work, $2,000 assessed. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those on these orders.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for her? Okay, all right, hearing none, we'll move on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so today, with our friend Andy out, plumbing program update, I believe, is that going to be you, Ian, or Todd?
It's going to be me this morning.
Okay.
Chair.
All right.
Good morning, Chair. Are you members of the board? Todd Smith, Policy and Technical Services Manager with the division. I am going to be filling in for Andy today. He's feeling a little under the weather and was not able to make it. But if he was here, I'm pretty sure he would give you an update on the journeyman plumber equivalency rules that we've been working on. We have a public hearing scheduled for that next week to take public comment, and we'll take whatever comment we get back there, and we're still on track for a July 1st implementation date on there. So we're making really good progress. And he would also want to give you an update on some research he's been doing on reciprocity rules for Oregon with some other states. He and Ian have been working on that. We're kind of in some preliminary phases to kind of see what's out there and what might have changed since the last time we took a look. And that actually segues really well into your next agenda item, which is from the state of Texas on reciprocity. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions for Todd? Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the next one. Ian, will you introduce whoever's on the phone?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the division received a request from the Texas State Board of Plumbing Examiners, General Counsel, to explore a possible journeyman plumber license reciprocity between Oregon and Texas. Lynn Latome, are you here on the line, and would you like to speak on your agenda item? Alternatively, Robert O'Boyle, are you here to speak on this agenda item? Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, it seems like neither Lynn nor Robert are here to speak on this agenda item.
Okay. Well, we can table this till the next one. If that's what we should do. It doesn't bother me.
I'll just jump in real quick if I may, Chair. I know Andy's been aware of this and he was looking at it. I think the letter kind of lays out what Texas is looking for, and we're happy to include Texas into that kind of overview of reciprocity that he's looking at. So that's what we're going to be doing on our end, and then we can get in touch with them and see if that works for what they're looking for from you guys.
Okay, sounds good to me. Does anybody got any comments, or they're okay with everything? Okay, all right. We have no appeals. We have no unfinished business. Next up again will be Ian to the approved committee recommendations for continuing ed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before I introduce the continuing education recommendations, I've been notified that Pat Lando is here to provide general public comment to the board.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Mr. Lando.
Thanks. Hello, Oregon Board, Plumbing Board. Pat Lando here with Recode. I'm hoping that Deb forwarded on documentation. I'm just revisiting something that I brought up in the pre-COVID times. This has to do with the Governor Brown's Executive Order 1720, in particular Item H, which states that this is for increased water efficiency for on-site water reuse. The appropriate advisory boards and BCD are directed to conduct code amendment of the state building code to require water efficient improvements in all newly constructed commercial buildings through standards for capture and safe reuse of water for irrigation purposes by October 1st, 2025. So my question first is, I'm sort of requesting an update from the state advisory board on this item. And in the event that there isn't an advisory board established, we're requesting that the state create an advisory board as the executive order states. And we're volunteering our organization to participate on this matter of principle. So, and in my document that I provided to Deb, that we created a general strategy that for the governor's office before the executive order, with some ideas on water efficiency that they could follow. They in turn summarized that and came out with Executive 1720. But anyway, it's just to check in on that item to make sure that this is still moving forward and that there's interest from Recode to participate in that and work with the plumbing board to create something. That's it.
I believe that'd probably be your agenda, wouldn't it, Todd? You'd probably want to answer this.
Yeah, Todd Smith of the division. I am happy to give where we are at on the division side of things. First thing, you guys are the advisory board that is referenced in there. So that references to the state plumbing board. So that does exist. And then right now from the division side of things, we're focused on getting the next version of the code out, which is the 2023 code that we're working on. Will be working on. And outside of that, we're waiting to kind of see how that shakes out and what that would be kind of the base code for the 2025 date that's listed in the executive order. So we're kind of taking things in steps.
Does that answer your question you needed there, Pat?
Not really. I'm wondering if there's, what process we're into right now to make sure that this happens, besides just updating the code, which you guys actually just modify and accept from the Unified Plumbing Code. I mean, I think that this is outside of that, isn't that?
That's my understanding. Yes, this would be separate from the next code cycle, but we do need to get the next code updated, the 2023 code, to know where we're at, to see what we need to change. And from the division standpoint, that's what we're focused on administratively, since that is the first date that's coming up next.
So when is that process ending for you guys?
The code change process will be ending in October 1, 2023.
Okay. So then the start of this process would take place when?
They would follow the adoption of the next version of the plumbing code.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, guys. All right. Now, if we're done with public comment, we'll move on to review of the approved committee recommendation for continuing ed with Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ian Paik, analyst with the division. In May, the CE committee received 8 applications from 4 organizations. 2 courses were recommended for approval. 2 courses were not recommended for approval. 4 instructors were recommended for approval. These reviews are detailed in the matrix included in your board packet. This agenda item will require a motion to approve, amend, or deny the CE committee's recommendation.
Okay. Craig, I'm going to lean on you again, brother.
Okay. Craig Anderson, through the chair, would move to approve the courses, both recommended and not recommended, as written in the June 16th board memo notes.
Okay, there's been a motion. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, let's call for a vote. Debbie, will you call the roll again, please?
Yes, sir. Joe Lebold. Joe Lebold. Molly Keller.
Aye.
Melissa Gett.
Aye.
Corey Fraser.
Aye.
Craig Anderson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Matthew Roselle. Mr. Roselle?
Oh, aye.
Thank you.
Did you hear that?
And yes, Chair Travis Argue.
Aye.
And Joe Lebold? Mr. Chair, without Mr. Lebold's vote, the motion passes.
All right, thank you, Debbie. All right, next we are on the plumbing specialty code kickoff. Again, it's up to you, Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ian Paik, analyst with the division. This agenda item is about the 2023 Oregon Plumbing Specialty Code that Todd was referencing earlier. The division requests the board to determine the appropriate model code to use as a baseline for the 2023 OPSC, whether or not to form a committee and solicit members, and to determine when to accept public proposals for inclusion. The division has included a proposed process in the agenda packet. The division is planning to adopt the 2023 OPSC with an effective date of October 1st, 2023. With the board's approval, the division will start the process of adoption. This item will require a motion.
My screen just went wild.
It's on mine.
Oh, so it must have put all the,
Yeah.
it must have put the proposal in.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any heartburn with any of this. Is there any other members that have any comments or questions that they'd like to talk to Ian about?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I thought there was a question before we proceed with this adoption about which code we were planning to use in our packet. Is that correct?
Maybe you caught
As a
something I
base.
didn't. I believe we were still planning on using the UPC. Ian, do you have any information on what she's asking?
I believe we're just confirming that, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can't have two codes, so we have to have just one. So, yeah, the 2023 OPSC. So,
Oh, I think I read that wrong then. I thought we were determining what was going to be our base code for the 2023 OPSC.
Would be the 2023 UPC, I'm assuming.
oh, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. All right. It says there's a motion required. I'm going to go ahead and make this motion. I make a motion to approve the division's proposed code adoption process steps. With the motion made, is there any discussion?
No.
Anybody else? Okay. All right. Debbie, will you call the roll on the motion, please?
Yes, sir. Is Joe Lebold connected? Imali Keller?
It looks like Pat might have a comment. I don't know if that's allowed.
Who is he with?
Pat Lando.
Recode.
Oh, is it about? Okay,
Well,
go ahead.
his hand just went up. So
I don't see him on my screen, so that's why I didn't address him.
Oh.
There he is now. All right, go ahead, Pat. What do you got for us, brother?
I know that through that process, there's a, that you just showed. Can we insert some public comment regarding EO Executive Order 1720, as I earlier commented on, to include in that adoption of the UPC 2023 that you guys are just discussing now?
Todd, I will ask you to address that question.
Yeah, no problem. Through the chair, Todd Smith of the division. So there is a public process that happens throughout the code change process. There's the code committee meetings, those are public. There is a public process that goes on for the rule adoption. If this is something that the board wants to tackle in this code cycle, you're free to, of course. The way that we were reviewing the timelines, it seemed a little early to get there. We're kind of going through the EO items in a chronological order. So with that timeline being out in 2025 and this code being adopted for 2023, that was kind of the way we were viewing it, but we're happy to modify the process in any way the board would like.
Yeah, my understanding about the 2025 adoption for some of the energy efficient and water efficiency items isn't necessarily on a code process, but it's a matter of infrastructure, and we need a long timeline to get those things in place. And so it's not necessarily that they're on the back burner per se for a future code adoption, but that these things take time to get in place in general. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm following you, and I don't have it in front of me, so we'd have to take a look. But I know that the way we were viewing it previously, and now as we viewed all the other items in that executive order, are the deadlines in the EO or when those code amendments have to be adopted by, not when they need to be have infrastructure ready to be implemented by. If that makes sense, if I'm understanding your comment correctly.
No, I get it. We're both saying the same thing.
Okay.
Then I do have one additional clarification I think I can make on the previous discussion regarding the base code. My understanding is with the proposal that we were understanding would be the 2021 UPC with 2024 enhancements, kind of trying to pull some of that future code items in as we're able to do so.
That's my understanding as well. Go ahead, Melissa.
Melissa Get through the chair. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Will the committee vote on that base code when once the committee forms for the 2023 OPSC?
Through the chair, yes, that is how that would work. The committee would review the base code, existing org amendments, and anything that they want to pull in from the 2024 UPC, and then they would vote on all those items and present them to you with recommendations for a final approval at the board.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right, Matt, go ahead.
Resolved through the chair. I don't know if now is the appropriate time to throw this out there, but if there is an opportunity to be on the committee, I would love to do that. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Are we good with everything then? All right. Well, guess what time it is, folks?
Did we complete roll call?
Oh, no, you're right. Thank you, Craig. Debbie, would you do the roll call on the motion?
Yes, sir. Joe Lebold is now connected. Joe?
Aye.
Thank you. Molly Keller?
Aye.
Melissa Gett?
Aye.
Corey Fraser?
Aye.
Craig Anderson?
Aye.
Vice Chair Matthew Roselle?
Aye.
And Chair Travis Argue.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Now, there are no agenda items, and it is time for adjournment. So it is 9:57. This plumbing board meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Take care all.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.